Have you ever thought that going into a stage, you think you're confused and you're wondering, what am I supposed to say? How am I supposed to, bring this speech or presentation into life? How am I supposed to bring this presentation breathe life into it? And most of us actually struggle with this, myself, for many years. And one of the things that I know for sure is you think you know when you actually don't. How many of you have gone in to present yourself or pitching an idea and you're standing there, everybody looking at you confused? There was no message, no purpose, no intention, and there was nothing there. It was just empty. How about there's a message for you that you can actually change all this and craft your ideas and bring all this together in a way that will bring meaning to the presentation or a sales speech or whatever idea you want to pitch in to anyone. Well, today I have a very, very special guest who is expert in crafting stories and bringing stories to life. Everyone, welcome to the Gems of Life show. My name is Fadwa, and I'm honored to introduce you, Michael Davis. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Fadwa. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. I know we've just recently met, but I am so taken by your story of courage and hope that didn't hesitate when you asked me to be on. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here. What an honor. What an honor for you just to take your time and come in here and share your wisdom. Do you mind just sharing to our audience, for those who don't know, who Michael Davis is?
Sure. Sometimes in life you have to be lucky, and I've met some great people in my journey, but what I do, people would say, his chair tells you what he does, he's a coach, but it's more than that. What my purpose is to help people look inside themselves, to find those stories, the tale of their journey through life that will inspire and give hope to others. Again, that's one of the things I loved about your story when we just met a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, wow, people need to hear your story. But I think that we all need, especially in these very turbulent times worldwide, we need hope. We need to know that, yes, we can get through anything. And that's such a privilege I have to work with people like you to just talk about all these experiences we had. And that's in essence what I do. I help people develop their stories. I help them learn how to craft presentations, whether it's on stage or now virtual. That's what I get to do every single day, and it's a great privilege. I didn't start out this way, but it's what I now do with my life, and it is my life's purpose.
Wow, that's amazing. So how about we backtrack then? What led you to where you are today?
Standing on a desk in first grade. So, I'll give you the short version. It was back in 1969, right after Neil Armstrong had taken his first step on the moon. I was 6 and I wanted to be an astronaut. I had a Halloween costume every year I would wear, or every day I would wear. I'd come home from school, put my costume on, and I'd get in a rocket and I'd fly to the moon and I'd walk up there. So that's what I was going to do with my life. Well, one day in first grade, we had a rainy day outside and we were stuck in the room at recess, and I got bored and I decided to jump up on my desk. And I was going to practice my flying skills, right? I thought it was a great idea. I was having fun until my teacher, Mrs. North, walked back into the room. She looked at me and she said, well, since you love standing on your desk so much, we're going to let you stand on your desk during nap time so everybody can see you.
Wow.
I thought, okay, well, I'll do that. And then an hour later, I'm standing on my desk in a darkened room. All my friends and have their heads on their desks, and you can hear the rain pelting on the window. But my friends weren't sleeping. They were making fun of me. They were taunting me silently, making faces and pointing. And, this is 52 years ago. Well, I don't remember how long I was on that desk. I just know that every second felt like an eternity. Mm-hmm. And when Mrs. North said, you can get down now, I said to myself, don't ever stand in front of people again. That was awful. And for the next 25 years or so, I didn't do, I avoided every chance I could to stand in front of people until I was in my boss's office in 1994. And I was a financial advisor at the time. Part of my job, ironically, was to go out and give public seminars on retirement planning. So I'm in my boss's office having just done one of these presentations, and I thought I had done well. I loaded my PowerPoint slides and I gave them everything I knew in an hour. And then he handed me a stack of evaluations. And I started to read through them. And they said things like, this guy moves around too much. Does he ever stand still? Does he ever take a breath? I feel like I've been hit by a fire hose. I mean, it was just one bad evaluation after another. And by the end of the meeting, my boss said, well, you know, part of the reason we hired you is because you said you could do these workshops and get us new clients. You're not doing that. You either fix this or we've got to let you go. So it was in that moment that the fear of losing my job became greater than the fear of speaking and standing in front of people. I had to do something. And that led me to Toastmasters, which, and I know this sounds cliche, but that literally changed my life, because it was there that I discovered that public speaking is like any other skill. It is learnable. That most people have a fear. In fact, it's natural to feel afraid of standing in front of others and speaking. And then that set me on a now 27-year journey that led me to meet people like Darren LaCroix, who is the reason we met through Stage Time University. And I've got all these world-class mentors. And I developed a confidence to stand in front of people that we're not born with.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. And you know what you just did, Michael? You actually told a story. Mm-hmm. Not just told a story, you actually brought that story to life. It actually felt like I was sitting in front of that desk watching you standing in front of that desk.
Yeah, that's a learnable skill. If I can do it, so can you watching this.
And that's one of the struggles, people struggle with, crafting a story and bringing that story to life. Mm-hmm. And what you just did, you actually, maybe that was not your intent, but it was because of your skill, you just naturally brought that to, in front of us.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Fadwa, because it isn't natural. That story has gone through an evolution. I told it very differently when I first started sharing it with folks years ago, and it's designed to put you in the room, and I can pull the curtain back. Some of the reasons you felt like you were there in the room is I described how the room was dark and you could hear the rain hitting the window. That's not accidental. That's part of what we teach when we teach storytelling, and to give those details that help people feel like they're there in the room with you. Actually, I ran through it a little fast. I could have done even better, but I know you have a short amount of time on these interviews.
No, go ahead. If you have more to share, why not?
Well, when I talk about standing on the desk, one of the important parts of storytelling is to put us in the thoughts of the characters. So actually what I really did was I stood on that desk and I was just like, please let me get down. I'll never be bad again. Please let me get down. This is terrible. I just don't want these people staring at me. Please just let me get down. I mean, that's all I kept saying over and over in my head for however long I was up there. And that added to this is a strong word, but the trauma of that. And it's why it impacted me for literally a quarter of a century, because every time I was put in a position where I could have gotten in front of an audience, whether it was joining the band in 6th grade, joining drama club in high school, or even open mic night when some of my buddies and I thought, well, let's go be comedians. Every time I stopped myself, I wouldn't do it, because I knew subconsciously that people were out there. They were going to laugh at me because of that desk situation. So each of us has an experience that holds us back like that. And until we acknowledge it and then put it in its place, it holds us back.
Yes. Yeah, that's really powerful. And to use that, actually, something that really went bad, to use that to benefit you in the end and to actually bring that story to life. And it's that inner dialogue that you're actually talking about that we usually don't use.
No, and that's what the purpose of a great speaker is, to give people hope. And the way we do that is to show our struggles. You and I, and if you're watching this, you've seen the speaker who stands up and tells you just how great his life is. I mean, he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and he's never had a problem, right? We don't buy it. We don't believe it, because that's not real life. The great speakers that connect, that inspire us to find the better, our better nature, is the one who says, okay, I went through this, it was bad. And I went through this, and that wasn't so good. And I went through that, and I kept going through it. But what the end result of that is, I'm living a better life.
Yes.
And the key to, and I know we talked about this the other day, is in your story, you didn't just magically get up one day and say, okay, I'm going to change my life for the better. You had an inspiration, a model, and it was your mother.
Yes.
And the best speakers will not take credit themselves for the wisdom that they've gotten. They will talk about someone or even something that inspired them to change and gave them hope.
Yeah. So you have to have your hero in your story, basically.
You have a hero and you've got a guide. And this is where there's some confusion on this. And there are actually, in the business world, there are two types of stories. One is what we call the hero's journey. And where some people struggle with this is when I say to them, for example, in your story, you are the hero. The hero is not the great warrior who has unlimited confidence and is never afraid. That's not what the hero means in this sense. The hero is a flawed character, someone who has had some misfortune, often not through any fault of their own. And they want a better life, but they don't know how to get it. That's when the guide or the guru comes in and gives that person wisdom. So the hero does not have the answer. The hero's looking for the answer. So in a business story, if you're talking about why did you get into business, why did you start your company, or why am I doing what I do, you're the hero and you had some struggles and you got inspiration. The other type of business story, you are not the hero. The hero is your customer or your client. This is a person who was having a problem, who was going through struggles, and then they needed a solution, and you are the guide who gave them that solution. This is a great type of story to tell to prospective clients, because the hero in the journey is just like the people in the audience, and they want to know that they can solve the same problem that character did. You just happen to be the person that has a solution.
Right. Absolutely. And that's what, especially if you have clients, that's all they want. They don't want you to, be the hero. They want you to actually just help them solve the problem. Have a problem. You show me how I can resolve this issue. So
Perfect.
Even in presentation for somebody who's our audience who are in the corporate world, how can they craft their stories? Because when you're talking in a different environment that is non-corporate, it's different. How do you bring your stories to life when you're in a corporate setting then?
Well, in a corporate setting, there's this belief that nobody wants to hear stories, that they just want facts and figures. No, they don't. Because you can get facts and figures on a cell phone faster than anybody can ever give you the information. You can get it anywhere. What they want is your interpretation of the facts and figures. They want your perspective. The best way to do that is through a story. Now, you tell different types of stories in a corporate setting than you would in an inspirational event, but the stories are still there. So, for example, if Department A, let's say the president of a company is giving a report. He talks about Department A versus Department B, and Department A has had a 25% increase this year, and Department B is down 10%. Well, he can tell stories about both. He could say the leader of Department A, here's what she and her team did. They implemented this new process. They were going through this struggle. They made a change, and here's how they got that result. Department B, here's why they failed. And their leader, he didn't do A, B, and C. This was the result. This created a lot of friction. I mean, come up with the emotion in it, but you can tell a story to help understand why the numbers are what they are, or why the data shows what it shows. Stories have a purpose in every setting.
Wow. So how do you start to begin to craft a story or your presentation? What are the tips that you can give, our viewers that they can, pitch in the idea or present a story in a way that will leave not just a great momentum, but meaning to that story?
Sure. The first tip is first step is, what is my message? See, a story does not just have a single message. It has multiple potentials. I know in talking with you about your story, there are so many different messages in there. We have to determine which one. And the way you do that is to take a piece of paper, a spreadsheet, whatever now I do recommend that people write out ideas because it triggers a different part of the brain than typing on a computer. But just write out all the potential messages. And then go through your list and decide which one resonates with you the most deeply right now. Then once you've determined that, the next question to ask yourself is, all right, if I build a story or I have a story for this message, what do I want my audience to think, feel, or do when I'm done? Because if we don't tell a story that gives them some inspiration to make a change, then we shouldn't tell the story. Unless you're brought in as an entertaining speaker, but very few people are. People don't need entertaining speakers as much as they used to, because we've got YouTube, we've got Netflix, we've got unlimited channels available to us. What they want is a perspective to change the way they act, the way they feel, or the way they think. So those are the first two questions you have to ask before you ever dive into the story.
Wow. Okay. Now you have the story.
Mm-hmm.
Just like me, I shared that with you. I'm the last minute kind of person. I have a speech I've prepared, and then on the day off, I panic and I doubt and I say, I'm not feeling it, or I'm not connecting with it. I need to change it. So what are the tips that you can give others, how they can have that confidence to deliver a speech, but one that will bring, wisdom and meaning to their speech as well?
First of all, do not give too much information. I often see people who think, let's say they've been in business 15 years. Well, I've got to give them everything I know in 20 minutes. No, it's not possible. What you want to do is go in with one solid idea. Like, what's your main message? And there's a rule of thumb we use. It's every 10 minutes of speaking time, give them one solid point. So for example, in teaching storytelling, if I'm given 50 minutes, I will go in with the idea of how you can sell more of your idea, product, or service with story. I can take 5 keys to storytelling because I've got about 50 minutes. I've got about 10 minutes each. I could go in with 5 of the key components to a story. However, if I've only been given 20 minutes, I'm only going to talk about 2 of those. So I might go in and say, all right, when you begin crafting your story, number 1 is you've got to have a relatable character, a hero that the audience can relate to and they like. Number 2 is you've got to put that person into, show us the conflict that individual had. Nobody wakes up one day with all the solutions, and so we've got to go through the various conflicts. So I've only got time for 2 points out of my 5. So don't overload your audience. Give them just enough that they walk away thinking, hey, I got some benefit from this. And if you don't have a lot of time to talk, you can kind of tease them out to say, okay, there's more available if you'll have me come back and speak, or if you'd like to talk to me one-on-one afterwards, I can give you much more insight into this topic.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can do a lot with an hour of speech, but at Toastmasters, we are limited to 5 to 7 minutes. How do you bring that together and bring in a message that will resonate with people in 5 to 7 minutes then?
It's what we've been talking about. It's take that one single idea, And do not try to put, as one of my coaches who you know through Stage Time University, Mark Brown, says, don't take an 8-minute speech and cram it into 6. Right? Take a 5-minute idea and stretch it into 6. That is, keep it very simple. A short story, the one I told about standing on the desk, the core of it is about a 3 to 4 minute story. Now, the message that I take from that, or I can give you, again, there are many, but one is, do not let your original pain or your original experiences keep you chained to a desk.
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally, we can be chained to a desk or whatever your particular story is. But that's a 3 to 4 minute story. I can make a point that fast.
Yes.
So don't overload. See, the challenge I see with a lot of storytellers, Fadwa, is they give us too much backstory.
Mm-hmm.
I gave you a little bit there in the start. Okay, it's 1969. I'm 6 years old. I'm in first grade. I'm a big fan of the space program. That's all you need to know, and it gives context to why it was important that I was standing on that desk.
Yes. Yes.
I was doing something that was fun related to a dream that I had as a little boy, but it had a huge impact on me as an adult until I was forced to face that fear and make a change.
Yeah. No, that was still powerful. I'm still thinking back in that classroom because I connected with you, right? Not only was I there, but I connected, with you because I've been there in classroom where you're punished. And believe me, Michael, you're lucky you were told to stand there even while the other kids were asleep. For us, it was physical punishment. So I was cringing just listening to that story because it took me back in time.
Now, that's so important what you just said, Fatma, because look at us. We're different. Male, female, different skin tones. We were raised in different countries, literally half a world apart, and yet connection. Because of a shared experience, being punished in school.
Yes.
That's where we get the power of our story. See, a lot of folks will tell me, well, look, I haven't done anything new, noteworthy. I've never climbed Mount Everest. I haven't won an Olympic gold medal. I've never overcome a major illness. Who wants to hear my story? Precisely. It's because you haven't done this. Because I love the stories of great accomplishment. But unless I know about their internal struggles, I forget them very quickly. Mm-hmm. You and I connected by me standing on a desk. Now, not everybody has stood on a desk in first grade, but we've all been punished, to your point. And then when I share the internal thoughts of, please let me get down. This is awful. I just hate this. Please let me get down. That drives home the connection.
Yes. Yeah. So that's really important, actually. One of the clues now, when you're putting together your speech or your presentation, is to make sure that one of the key elements to do is to connect to your audience. That's really key.
Yeah. And the way you connect, there are two types of conflict, because without a conflict, there is no story.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk about, I went to school one day and it was a really great day, and we were inside it was raining outside, and we stayed inside. We played, had recess. It was a fun day. That's not a story. Nobody cares. So it has to have the conflict. Now, there are two types of conflict. One is external. I know in your story, there's a lot of conflict of external about people around you trying to convince you to not take this action. But the real story is the internal. It's the self-doubt. It's I don't know if I should because I'll let people down. And then you make the decision, yes, I have to do this for my own future. It's the internal struggle that we've all had, maybe not specific to what you've gone through or what I've gone through, but the emotions are what are common.
Yeah.
And that's where we make the connection.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So would you say the internal connection is far more relevant than the external part of it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because think about it. What was it that made you cringe when you said that I was being punished? What thought went through your mind?
Yeah, it reminded me of being punished.
Okay. And when you were reminded of being punished, what feelings did that convey?
Pain, embarrassment, that you feel like you should never be. You want to disappear basically because you don't want to be present. You're the only. It looks like for me, because we were young at that time, and
Right.
the only way to be punished was not just to be told you've done wrong, but physical, literally
Yeah.
physical, and whipping. That's what I'm talking about.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Well, you said the two key words, embarrassment and invisible.
Mhm.
I never said those two words, but you felt what I was demonstrating was I'm on that desk thinking, please let me get down.
Mhm.
So I'm embarrassed. Kids are making fun of me. And I did want to be invisible.
Mhm.
Now, I didn't have to say that. You filled that part in
Yeah.
yourself. Just like if you were to go out and tell your story being a little girl and being punished, other people are going to be like, oh, yeah, I went to Catholic school and I remember getting whacked on the wrist with a ruler. It's the same emotion.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why the internal journey, the internal conflict is so critical to great storytelling.
Mhm. Wow. These are really good tools to use actually when crafting a story. I
Yeah.
know we are running out of time, and I really enjoyed talking to you, Michael. What are the some of the steps that maybe we missed out on, maybe we didn't cover, that you feel others could benefit from?
Well, the first thing is to understand you do have stories people need to hear. Every person alive has had this journey and we all share common emotions. So that's the first thing. You got to believe and understand that yes, you do have stories. And most of us will never climb Mount Everest or win Olympic gold or any of that. So I don't know what my camera's doing here. So that's the number one. Believe you've got stories. Number two is have a message. What's a message that you have? Number three is what is it that you want people to think, feel, or do? And number four, keep it simple. Don't overload us with so much information that we're like, what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
Great stories are simple. Think about some of the, here in the States, some of the great stories that we grew up on, the tortoise and the hare, right? What's the message? Slow and steady wins the race.
Yes.
Simple story. Why do we remember it? Because it's simple and it has imagery.
Mm-hmm.
So create that image in the minds of people. Have a clear message in your story will have a lasting impact.
Yes. And I like what Mark Brown had said before. He said, we all have stories the world needs to hear.
He is absolutely right.
Yes, yes. So, Michael, I see behind you it says CPR. Do you mind just telling us, CPR speaking, what it's about and how people can best get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Speaking CPR is the company I started in 2011, and this is what I do. It is my purpose. It's my passion to help people get out there and speak with their own voice, their authentic voice. I believe it's the most important communication tool we have, is whether it's on camera or it's in front of a live audience, is to get out there and give a clear message that inspires people, gives them hope, and inspires them to take action. So that's what I do all day long. I help craft speeches, stories, and since March of 2020, help people do this online in a much more productive way. And if you'd like, I've got a couple of complimentary resources that I'll make available if you want to put these in the show notes. One is it's a report called Stop Zoom Burnout Now. One of the biggest complaints I'm hearing in the age of COVID is, oh, I'm so tired of looking at my screen all day at work. I don't believe that, because if you were really tired of looking at your work screen, why is it that you're turning around to look at your phone screen? Or you're going to binge watch Netflix, all right? It's not the screen that's the problem. It's the presentations. They're not good. As we like to say, they suck the life right out of every meeting. Right? They're just not good. So there are different, you have to present differently on camera than you do in person. So it's Stop Zoom Burnout Now. I'll send you the link for that. And then the other is a series of weekly tips called 52 Storytelling Tips. It's a 5-minute audio that comes right to your email box. Just download it, and the idea is to build one skill on top of another. Happy to make those available to your viewers.
Yes. Okay, wonderful. Now, just one quick question, since you actually brought it up. how has speaking presentation changed in the virtual world now?
Tremendously. And here's the problem is, as I mentioned, it's not the Zoom camera or whatever platform you use. That's not the problem. The problem is that most people are still standing in front of a camera like this and delivering for 20, 30, 40 minutes. And one of the most important ideas that I picked up on this was that online dulls the senses. Think about this, Fadwa. When you're standing in front of an audience, you can see them, you can hear them, you can feel the temperature in the room, you can smell the scents, and you can also even taste what's in there. If there's food, even though you're not eating, it does trigger your taste senses. Well, 3 of those are completely shut down. We cannot taste the room, we can't smell the room, and we cannot feel the room. We can only see what the other person's camera picks up, and we can only hear what their microphone picks up. So 3 of our senses are out completely. The other 2 have been dulled down to this limited space here. It's important that we visually, our faces have to be prominent, but that doesn't mean we stare at the camera the whole time. If I'm doing a webinar or some kind of presentation, I will work slides and images in. I get the audience involved through chat box, through polling, breakout rooms. We have to make the audience much more engaged than we used to, or otherwise they're going to check out on us. They will, all of a sudden you'll see their picture up. They won't have a live screen. They'll mute themselves. They're doing something else. And it's up to us as presenters to keep them engaged. The way to do that is constantly changing. At Stage Time University, where we met, they call it changing the pace, which is a great term. Secondly, shorter presentations. The hour-long presentations are really tough to sit through. You can't just have one person staring at a camera like we used to.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's boring just to have one person.
Very boring. Absolutely.
It's boring.
it's bad enough for most presenters on stage, but on camera, it's deadly.
Yes.
We've got to change it up. Just like this interview, it's back and forth. We see your face for a while, then mine, then yours, then mine. And then if we were to do some type of joint presentation, we would work all those other elements in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes it interesting because then you're bringing different perspective from different people. Instead of just one person, it's unbelievable. I've attended a lot of Zoom meetings and it's exhausting because you're just hearing one person talking. And for me, I like action. I like, somebody to be animated. I need to hear some different variations, just like Toastmasters teaches you, right?
Yeah.
And
interesting you mentioned Toastmasters. I was listening to an interview this morning with the 2020 World Champion of Public Speaking, Mike Carr, which I highly recommend everybody go watch. Mike Carr on YouTube. Mike Carr, 2020 World Champion of Public Speaking. Watch how he uses the screen. He starts his speech off in the lower left-hand corner right here. He was a little kid. And then he's up here, he's back here, and he's moving all the time. And it makes a big difference visually. It keeps people engaged.
Mm-hmm. I actually watched that video. I watched that, I was impressed by his speaking abilities and how creative he was to actually use that limited space. Because for me, I always, even when I'm evaluating others or when I'm delivering a speech in Toastmasters, I like to use the stage a lot. And I walk around. I am very animated. And now you're limited to this small space. How do you better use it? And to find that middle ground, and still, you can still be creative. So we are not still limited. We have potential of, capabilities to deliver a speech.
It's making better use of what we have. So
yeah.
I don't know if you can see this. This is one of the most important things I tell people. Technology is going to glitch on you. I don't know if you can see it from your end. My camera has been in and out of focus for the last 20 minutes. I don't know why. It's not happening.
Well, it's what happens. It's virtual. Anything happens. Be prepared for anything. You know?
And you know what? It's not a big deal. This is what I tell all my clients. Look, things will go wrong whether you're on stage or on camera. Mm-hmm. They're not going to remember those glitches unless you make a big deal of it. Mm-hmm. If you give them value and you give them something that will make their lives a little bit better, they're going to forget the rest.
Yes,
just keep that in mind. It'll happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just like, imagine you are standing now and you're delivering a speech and something like that happens.
Mhm.
But if you just focus on delivering, and focusing on your speech, then everything else doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. Because when you get upset about all these you're thinking about yourself. Whereas it's like, all right, camera's out of focus. Can you hear me? Great. Let's keep going.
Yes.
Oh, now I've got to have slides ready, or I've got to have videos ready to show. It happens every single time I present.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that you get comfortable with that and feel confident is to keep doing it, make mistakes, learn from them, and just move forward.
Absolutely. Well, it was a pleasure to have you, Michael. You've shared with us some really good gems on speaking. Good. And how to craft your stories and bring them to life. Amazing. And I look forward to many more conversations with you, Michael. I would love to have you again on our show.
Love to. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And just keep getting out there and telling your story too, everybody.
Working on it. There
you go.
Yes. All and right. I will post your website information and all your contact information. So any of our viewers who is interested to connecting with you, they will know how to get in touch with you as well.
Sounds good. I'll send that information over to you.
Wonderful.
All right.
Everyone else, remember, we all have the power and ability to develop ourselves and grow. So remember, the Gems of Life is all about encouraging you and supporting you and reminding you that we all have the power to develop ourselves. And 2021 is the year of possibilities. Anything and everything is possible. Remember, aspire to inspire. That's our motto. Take care. See you then.